Cool. I assume that means go. Before we get, oh, good. Okay, well, welcome to my talk. For anybody that wants to follow along or click any of the links, I have a whole lot of links in the slides. I'm putting my slide deck in the chat right now. They're all on GitHub. All of my talks are on GitHub. So that's an easy place for them to be. I'm super glad you're here. I have two favorite kinds of talks, ones that are very technical and get into the nitty-gritty of implementation, and then ones about people having fun doing side projects. This is the latter. We will talk a little bit about implementation stuff and a little bit about like some like architecture choices and design choices, but it's mostly just me building a fun project for myself and then getting the opportunity to share it with you guys and hopefully inspiring people to write code that's more than for just the day job, because day job code gets horribly boring. Just to start up a little bit about me, I am a data reliability engineer at Lehi. If you don't know what that is, you can click on the link. It's very important and everybody should have one, in my opinion. I do stream on Twitch every Friday. I organize the GoWest Conference. We just had our second edition, which was hybrid in October. Andrew Williams is one of our speakers. His video is one of the highest watched on YouTube right now of our conference. In addition to that, I help organize several meetups in the area, the Utah Go meetup, Women Who Go, Utah Kubernetes, Utah machine learning, stuff like that. And I have two dogs that are trapped outside right now, but it's a gorgeous day, so they can be trapped outside and then we won't hear their barking. So I'm just gonna put one little plug for the company where I work, Weave. We're hiring remote anywhere in the US, or if you want to move to Utah because housing's cheaper than California, that's great. We've got several roles. Like I said, if you're interested, you can click on the links in the slide deck, or feel free to DM me on Twitter or Slack or LinkedIn or whatever you find that it's interesting to DM me. We have backend roles. Oh, and we're all Go. So our entire backend is Go. So we have backend senior, backend mid, engineering manager, SRE, and then software support. So yeah, there's my plug. I'm not going to talk any more about work. The rest is all going to be about fun stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and just set the stage a little bit for why I needed this project. Like I said, I manage several meetups. We are all of my meetups are under the umbrella of a nonprofit, the Forge Foundation, which I'm one of the founders of. And I was looking for a way to just keep track of, aggregate, and hopefully republish these meetup events, like on our website or in Slack or as notifications, just a way to aggregate them and move forward. I have tried for several years to access this information via the Meetup API, but they don't think that my nonprofit counts as a valid business. So I figured since the API wasn't accessible to me, I would just build a web scraper like any entry-level Python programmer would do. And I would just get the data I needed off of the Meetup Pro page. And so that's what I did. I set out to work building my web scraper like any good gopher would do. Let's talk about this web scraper. First, it was built using Go. An example of a Go web scraper I have right here. One thing you generally speaking want to have when you're building a web scraper is a way to parse your DOM to be able to access the attributes and the elements. That's one reason. Go has a couple packages for doing that, but it's not like the best at it, which is why a lot of people do it in Python. Anybody that's doing data scraping does it in Python. So yeah, I chose Firestore to store all of my stuff because I had just seen a Meetup talk about Firestore and I was super motivated. Another reason I chose it is because it's free for under, the storage was free and I don't have to pay for like calls to the Firestore database if they're under 100 a month. So like, way to go. I mean, if I'm going to be hacking on a project, I want to do it at as little cost to me as possible. And there's a link to the Firestore. Firestore has a Go client. Another reason why I wanted to have it. Super great and awesome. And, you know, yeah, like I said, and it was like literally there was a talk at the Utah Go Meetup about Firestore, like the week I was starting this project. So I was super hyped on it and ready to go. The link to the talk is in that too, and I think everybody should watch it. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to pull every week. I just wanted to get a list of the meetups that were coming up, because they don't refresh more often than weekly, and that way I would, and sometimes we only update them week of, right? We don't announce what the meetup is until week of, but then I would be able to have a list of the meetup, the meetup group and the title and the name. Oh, I have all that. So you would give me the meetup name, the title and the description. And I really wanted the number of people that had RSVP'd, but I couldn't find that as easy as the rest of the stuff. But, you know, just the basic meetup information to kind of keep track of what's popular. And then I do keep track of the meetup attendance. So if I had the talk title and description along with the attendance, and I could see what's more popular, what's not, who's the speaker was, you know, kind of be like, oh, this person's like, see what brings people back, you know, make data-driven decisions, stuff like that, that we say we do in software. So this is an example of the payload essentially that I'm pulling off. As you can see, we've got an event type, a name, a link to the URL. This description is blank because I didn't fill it out. Though it's got all the good stuff that you need there. It's nice JSON, easy to work with. So for the web scraper, there's really only like 3 steps that happens. I call the web address for the Meetup Pro page. I extract the information I want, and then I take the JSON and dump it right into the Cloud Firestore. They use a JSON schema as their, just like Mongo, it's just a Firestore that does everything in JSON. So it's really simple, really easy to do. So with that being said, let's just take a little dive through that Go code. It's a very simple little application. So we should be able to go through it real quick. So for all of you that use Vim like me, this is our little code section. This is just the main file. And this is our handler, right? For it, we just have a little handler that runs the entire web crawler, and that's it. It connects the Firebase client. It gets the information from the pro page. It gets the important URLs. Right here, it prints if there's an error. And then it adds them to Firebase. It's like really simple, like it's only 5 lines. The Firebase stuff is interesting to look at, but I do not have like a super in-depth knowledge of all of that, but it's really easy. You just have your credentials you add to it. You connect with a project ID, create a client, and then you create essentially a doc that is how it organizes and stores. So for every meetup in my list, I'm adding to this doc that's stored under the timestamp. So all of the meetups live under this timestamp, under the event collection, and then they all have their own little visual JSON file that's a slice of JSON objects. pretty simple, straightforward, and really easy to run. The web crawler itself is under the Meetup thing. So not that you don't want to see the test stuff. That's really easy. So what it does is it gets the pro page, it just calls it, and then here it gets the information from that. It adds the cookies right here. This is really nice by adding the cookies, by adding a concept of cookies. It treats you a little bit more like a browser than like a bot. It's not necessarily like a guarantee, but some things watch for requests without cookies. But these are super generic, so I could, anyway. It's a public page, so it shouldn't have any problems, and we're not looking at security in any way. But what's really interesting is normally, like I said, you would search the DOM to get the attributes, but with mine, right at the very top, they had all of the information pre-formatted into the JSON object I wanted. They had the URL, they had the location, they had the title, they had the description, they had everything I wanted except for the number of RSVPs just hanging out right there in a little JSON blob. So instead of like parsing out the elements and searching the DOM, I just did a strings parse, and I split it off of these script tags, looked for a URL, which was the key, and then unmarshalled it. There's a little bit extra cleanup that happens here, but not too much. You can dig into it if you really want to, but like it was a really easy crawler to write. And I did the whole thing while streaming on Twitch. So if you're like super interested in what I did, or you're new to Go and you haven't really done a whole lot of Go, you can go code it along with me on the Twitch streams. So Oladapo, you're asking about my Vim setup. On my GitHub, I already shared the link to my GitHub. There is a .files, and there's my Vim setup. Go ahead in that .file. I will share that in the chat later, but you should be able to find it in the .files folder on my GitHub repository. So that was just a basic overview of the code. Super simple, super great. Funny story. My VP of engineering saw that I was building a web scraper. Super trivial. And he asked me if we had any viable product uses for it and how we could use it at our company. He actually like made a team of people building web scrapers at Weave to get business information off of like public websites. So I say it's really simple, but clearly it has a lot of business use. So now that I had this web scrapers built, like I said, I wanted to where's the link for the beginning Go developers to code with you on Twitch? This use case. Oh, that is the very first, the second slide in my bio goes to my Twitch page. If not, I believe my last slide does have a link to the YouTube where all the videos are stored, and I can share that later. I'll share that again. So anyway, back to the content. What was I saying? Okay, now that I have this web scraper built, like I said, I wanted to build it on a cadence, run it on a cadence. And like anytime you want to run anything on a cadence, like your gut is, let's build a cron job to do it. And so I was like, let's do a cron job on GCP. Why not? There's like GCP credits, right? Everybody's got GCP credits. So I said, okay, what kind of cron jobs can you run on Google Cloud? And there's actually a couple different kinds. App Engine has a cron job. You can do Cloud Functions with the Google Cloud Scheduler. You can do Cloud Run with the Cloud Scheduler, or Kubernetes cron jobs on GKE. these are all work really well. But I ended up choosing the Cloud Run plus the scheduler for a variety of reasons, which I'll get to later. Mostly, App Engine seemed a little bit heavy, and the Kubernetes cron was way too heavy for that. Like, that's what we do at work. We're all Kubernetes at work. So I was like, I've already done that. I wanted to do something I hadn't done. So yeah, for any of you though that are interested, one of the advantages of doing this via Cloud Run is if I didn't want to run it as a cron job, I could run it as a function as a service style architecture. Basically, like I said, I have a handler. I'll end up exposing an endpoint that you can hit. And every time that endpoint is hit, it runs the job. And just built into Google, doing this function as a service style work, you could do it with a scheduler on a cadence. You can expose an endpoint, or you can do a pub sub. Those all directly integrate right into the Cloud Run. You can also do gRPC into the Cloud Run. If you really want to do function as a service, this is function as a service I've learned recently is very common in the analytics and data transformation space. They love functions as a service to be able to do things serverless and have the jobs run based on events. When the events from streams, from pub subs on AWS, they really like to run functions, Lambda functions with Kinesis. So it's always good to try your hand at functions as a service. I always want to try it. I work, like I said, I'm a data reliability engineer, so I'm always looking for new ways to try new data architectures and practice with them. So I chose Cloud Run and the scheduler. So the first thing I had to do to get that running was get a Docker image going. So I just went with the basic Docker image. The one thing here that's not really that basic is the fact that I had to add a JSON file with permissions to access the cloud store. I was unable to get the IAM permissions to allow me to post to Cloud Store from my Google project, even though they were on the same project. I was able to do it locally, so I just moved that up there. Like I said, it's only public data, so I wasn't too concerned about security. I'm not doing anything special. I wasn't hacking it, so I don't think anybody will ever get a hold of this file because it's just sitting in a Docker image or on my computer, but I didn't really care about best practices in that case. I just wanted it to get working. So after you create a Docker image, you add it to the Google Cloud Registry using this command, really simple. Just so you know, this is storing that Docker image on the Google Cloud Registry is the only thing that has ever costed me money in this entire project. Everything else is free, and I think I've spent a total in over a year. I've spent about $3 in Docker storage fees for the Docker image. So I think that's worthwhile to be able to practice things. So once the image is deployed to the Google Cloud Registry, you can take it from the Cloud Registry and upload it into the Cloud Run. I just did the platform managed. I didn't need anything else special. Like there was really nothing unique that I needed. You'll notice here that I didn't even have to expose a port because everything's internal to the same project. They kind of just managed all the networking for me. So it was really easy. I was surprised how easy it was to get that cron job up there and then get it deployed. So inside my main.go, I do have a couple of endpoints on port 8080. I have one just to check that it's live, the health endpoint. And then I have a run crawler endpoint. They're super awesome. And then last step was to use the scheduler to have it call the endpoint. at every cadence, right? So I have it calling it at 5 a.m. UTC every first day of the month. That's not what this says. This schedule is for every 5 minutes, which is what I was doing when I was testing. But it's pretty simple. It's only doing a get. It hits the crawl, and then it runs pretty simply. So I was actually going to do a quick little, we can just show you how it works, even though I found out today it was broken. So I think they've updated. I think that Meetup found my little cheat and they took the JSON blob out of their web, their HTML script. Anyway, so I was just going to run it. Actually, yeah, run main.go. Go run main.go. Oops. Like I've never programmed in Go before. No, I do it all day, every day. So now that we have that running, we can just do a curl. Oh, that's not how you spell curl. Curl to the local host. See, we just get the health that lets us know that we're live. And then you do another curl. To the crawl that goes and gets everything, pulls it back, and then it saves it in the Firestore. Like I said, the local is connected to Firestore. And then you can use the gcloud command. Oh, it's not on this computer. You can't, it's on my other computer. I got the new M1 Mac and it doesn't have the same history, obviously. You can call the endpoint using gcloud, the gcloud and gcloud auth. So if you use gcloud auth, you can curl the end, you can hit the endpoint that's exposed on your app from your home machine. And it uses the authentication associated to the gcloud config locally. So that's one of the reasons why I had the health, was to make sure it was deployed appropriately. And then, yeah. As you can see, if we go to, oh, I can't see my own screen. Oh, where did I put the developer portal? Not the developer portal, the Go console. Did I get rid of my Firestore, Cloud Store? No, not that one. Cloud console. Oh, you guys are gonna, 1 second. Cloud console. Just in case, I just gotta go back to the Firestore. There we go. So we're back. As you can see, today is the 26th. We had the schedule one that ran on the 24th. We have this one that's on 26th. Unfortunately, I haven't checked this in a couple months and the data is empty. So like, that's great. It still has the JSON format that I wanted. It's just empty. So I need to go back and fix it. But we go back to November, we can see that there were events. We have Venkata and Kevin. They were speaking about auto sailing with Kinesis and customer driven contracting. And I believe that this duplicates that. So these were the two meetups, the two Go meetups we had scheduled, because we didn't have any machine learning meetup scheduled. So it works just like I wanted it to, and it has the historical information. Well, it did work. It doesn't work now. So yeah. We've got just a couple more slides. Feel free to post any questions you have, and I'll be happy to answer them. One thing I want to hit, so cloud functions are the typical way of doing functions as a service. They're lightweight. They do support Go. You can do schedule and you can still connect to Firestore. Here's a link to the cloud functions if you want them. And a little walkthrough to do it with a scheduler. The main reason I didn't do cloud functions is money. Cloud Run is free for the first 100 calls you do in a month, or 1,000 or something. And I'm doing one every week. So that was well worth my, like, no money. Like, I'm gonna save money, and I'm going to put that money elsewhere, like in Star Wars Legos or my Twitch set up for my Twitch stream, because that cost a pretty penny as well. Some hurdles that we had here. I am not as familiar with creating service accounts as some people. I don't do it at work. They're done for me. We have a team that manages all of our internal tooling. So I had to figure out how to get the service accounts for the Cloud Run and the scheduler and the Firebase. And like I said, at the end of the day, I couldn't even get the service account from the Cloud Run to have write permissions to the Firebase. So I just gave them manual write permissions. It took me a minute to figure out how to use the Google Cloud Log tool, the logging manager, and the log search. And honestly, I'm so used to the standard out, and that's not going to give you a standard out. And then the last thing was that health endpoint. I did not like have a good, I was really kind of new at Docker, and I didn't quite understand how to expose the endpoints, not only through Docker, but I had to go and give permissions to the endpoint through Cloud Run. You have to, that's part of the Cloud Run configurations, you have to give it, which I ended up doing just through the UI in the console because it was easier. So in summary, as we add some friendly little trees to our talk, Go is the best programming language. I know this for a fact because I did a conference on it, and because I have the Mandalorian and his gopher baby in the background. I really enjoyed using Docker containers for this. I thought it was super easy to deploy it that way and run little jobs as a function, as a service, or as a cron, or however you want to run that. I really liked having it as a Docker container as opposed to just having it locally. Well, I mean, you can run Docker containers locally, but just having that all set up there. And that's pretty much it. So thank you guys for coming out. And I'll take any questions you may have about what's going on. And like I said, this is the link for the YouTube and the Twitch if you're interested in any of that stuff.
So I'm going to stop the recording so people can feel free to speak. And thank you so much, Miriah. That was awesome, and got a lot of great content in a great amount of time. My goodness, and it was a lot of great stuff. I'm going to go ahead and press